this channel, if you've been watching for a bit, we know that all of these terms, emotional abuse, coercion, sexual assault, those are all feminist words. They were all words invented in the last 100 years to basically incriminate men and call a lot of basic behaviors predatory.
Hi, we're here with the kind, caring and compassionate Pearl again, okay? And she's here to explain how people who say they've been in abusive relationships are just over-dramatic drama queens who should just shut up and put up. That is, if they're women, of course. Pearl can explain to you.
So next we have Steven Crowder. So a little refresher on Steven Crowder. Crowder went viral a couple of months ago because honestly, Crowder was the type of guy that did everything right. He's pro-marriage, pro-family. I believe he was a virgin when he got married. And he got married young and he had kids, isn't known for cheating, whatever.
Well, I believe that Hillary was also the kind of woman that did everything right. She was pro-family, pro-marriage, a Christian. I don't know whether she's a virgin, I'm just assuming, you know, given the Christian beliefs. So why are we automatically assuming that Steve Crowder can't do anything wrong, but she can? Like, if you're going to go down the road of saying, oh, but he was a Christian who did everything right, well, wasn't that the same with her?
And a couple of months ago, it came out that Crowder is getting divorced. And as much as I do love Candace Owens, I'm a fan of Candace.
Well, yeah, you see, Candace Owens normally defends men whatever they do, don't she? Because she defends Andrew Tate, despite all the video evidence and all the recordings and all the text messages and all the evidence that shows, or even the fact that he himself has admitted to scamming people, conning people, manipulating people and abusing people. Despite all of that, she defended him, okay? But then the Steven Crowder video, she acted like that was like the most traumatic, devastating, awful thing that she could ever have witnessed.
So that is both heartbreaking and infuriating for me to watch. I cannot even comprehend how any man can speak to a woman like that, least of all when she is 8 months pregnant. And sadly, that isn't the worst part of that course.
Which, like, don't get me wrong, I mean, he wasn't very nice the way he was berating his wife, but you compare that to all the evidence against Andrew Tate, okay? Andrew Tate comes off a lot worse. There's a lot more evidence that shows like how bad Andrew Tate is, okay, than Steven Crowder, okay. I don't know whether the reason why Candice defended Steven Crowder is because she already didn't like him, or I don't know, I can't know her mind, but usually Candice Owens, just like the rest of the manosphere, will always defend a man regardless of what the evidence is, or regardless of what he's done, okay. So that even surprised me, actually, her calling out Steven Crowder.
I do think she got this one wrong. Candice shared a clip on her channel of Crowder being emotionally abusive towards his wife. And on this channel, if you've been watching for a bit, we know that all of these terms, emotional abuse, coercion, sexual assault, those are all feminist words. They were all words invented in the last 100 years to basically incriminate men and call a lot of basic behaviors predatory.
Actually, I believe that they're words that psychologists very often use when they're talking about people that are abusive who have like mental health issues, personality disorders. I don't think that they're actually feminist words.
What is emotional abuse? I'm just going to refer to this as EA. It can be expressed through a range of aversive behaviors that cause harm to an individual, like coercion, control, monitoring. This is like watching somebody or checking up on them. Verbal abuse, isolation, threatening, manifesting jealousy-type behaviors, humiliation, manipulation, treating another person as if they're inferior, withholding emotionally or physically from a partner, and engaging in sadistic acts. There's actually a number of other items that could qualify as emotional abuse as well, but those are just some of them. Now, we see a lot of mental health outcomes when we study EA. We know that EA tends to erode somebody's self-esteem, it creates self-doubt, and it can cause an increase in somebody's passive behaviors, so it can increase passivity. Now, there's some controversy in terms of what mental health outcome is most prevalent, and really, if you look at the leading theories, it would be between anxiety and depression. So some say anxiety, and they theorize EA leads to anxiety because of the fear created with emotional abuse. And others say depression. So it's hard to know, but we know that both are fairly common outcomes of being emotionally abused. Now, interestingly, if we look at other consequences of EA, we see physical health symptoms, like somatization and chronic pain. So what gender differences do we see with emotional abuse? Well, there are actually quite a few gender differences, and I gained a lot of this information from one particular article, but I'll put the references to all the articles I used for this video in the description for this video. But in this one study, we see that females are more likely to report that a partner engaged in threatening behaviors intended to frighten them, and to make them feel inferior by establishing authority over them. Males are more likely to report that a partner engaged in behaviors intended to make them feel badly about their attractiveness, behaviors designed to check up on them, so that monitoring behavior I talked about before, and behaviors designed to make choices for them. Now, when compared to males' reports of their own behaviors, females reported they were more likely to engage in behaviors aimed at checking up on their partner, manipulative behaviors designed to get what they wanted, and acting jealous of other potential romantic partners. Also in the study, we see that males concurred that they were more likely than females to engage in behaviors designed to make their partners feel inferior by establishing authority over them, but also admitted to showing interest in alternative romantic partners in order to make their partners feel insecure. So kind of overall, females perceive themselves as engaging in manipulative and monitoring behaviors to get what they want, and males perceive themselves as engaging in behaviors to gain power by treating their partner as inferior. Now, Stephen made a few comments that would be very difficult for him to defend. For example, he told Hillary to blank watch it, informed her that he didn't love her, and tried to badger her into giving the dog medicine. It's like Stephen just couldn't let that go. He was obsessed with forcing Hillary to complete that one task. Stephen's style of arguing was unrefined, domineering, childish, and selfish. I guess his particular brand of coercion could be referred to as crowd control. As I mentioned, after the recording, Stephen allegedly screamed, "I will blank you up." There is no excuse for this comment.
So this clip came out of Crowder.
I have a boundary. No, you just did. I go down here abusive. You are not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There's no groceries. I'm happy.
Thanks. What pellets? My grill. I know it's not reasonable, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Go ahead, how do you respect me? Yes, I'm a man. I'm a man. I see love like that. No, I'm a man. So you're not taking the car. You're not taking the car. You are not.
Then I will ask them to do that. Would you like me to ask?
Well, that's right.
Is that correct, Stephen?
Get an Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen,
Like, I can't
Stephen.
go. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and meet me here. Hillary, just think of a box in you, baby.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. It doesn't work either. Do you
I
understand the difference between one life being set to the second and you're going to come back?
Stephen,
The only way out of this is discipline respect. If the only way out of this is we're at an impact.
we are going to pass.
Good. Because you cannot make discipline respect.
Stephen,
Yeah, there you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up so
You know, you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline respect. You said, now we're at an impact.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay? I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. Your
Watch
abuse
it.
is sick.
Watch it. Watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need to get. And I need some space. You need to just fucking make it go with it, okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you, and the fact is when I don't look, I need you A, B, C, and D. You should discipline out of you. No. But I love you more than I love you. Okay. Put on some gloves. No. But I love you more than myself. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right. Right in that. Become someone who's in it. Day in and day out, worthy of a life, worth no matter the life. I didn't say the life. Hillary, come on now.
I'm not gonna engage. I'm not gonna engage anymore. I'm gonna go. I'll get text meeting. I'll get you to you. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Are you committed to those things?
I'm not
Are you committed to those things? You're not committed to anything. You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you a minute ago. Walk the dogs, run to the bus. Walk the dogs, run to the bus. Are you committed to those things? Are you committed to those things? Are you committed to those things?
I'm gonna just
Walk the dogs, run to the bus. Are you committed enough to the medication of God? No, you take that.
So it's funny. It's funny because when I watched this clip, I just had a completely different reaction. It's so interesting when you rewatch these clips with like a red pill lens because
You mean a women are always bad and men are good lens?
my first thought was, why did she have a clip from like 2 years ago? She must have been like sitting on this. 2, we don't know what she did to start the situation. And 3,
Why is it assumed that the woman must be the one that started the situation? Okay, from what I heard, Steve Crowder wanted Hillary to give the dog some medication, but she did not want to touch the medication because it specifically said that it is harmful to pregnant women and that pregnant women shouldn't touch it, okay? And that is why Steve Crowder is specifically telling her to put on some gloves and give the dog some medication, okay? And she's refusing to do it because she is worried about whether it is harmful to the babies, okay? Now, that Steve Crowder could have just given the dogs the medication himself, okay? I'm sorry, Pearl, that you have such a low opinion of men and will defend men no matter how gross they're acting, okay? But a decent guy would actually be understanding and sympathetic in that situation and be like, oh, my wife, who is pregnant with my children, does not want to go and touch some chemical that is meant to be harmful to children, okay? She's doing her motherly thing of being protective to her babies, okay? So it wouldn't have hurt him, would it, to have just given the dogs the medication, all right? It would have taken, like, what, about 2 minutes?
my thought was like, when you get married, you're supposed to obey your husband. So if she just obeyed him.
Okay, Pearl, that is your opinion. It's not everybody's opinion. And by the sound of it, this opinion that women are supposed to obey their husband is a relatively new opinion of yours and not an opinion that you have always had, okay? So maybe you can understand that not everybody has the same opinion on how relationships should be as what you do. But even people who are, say, like Christian, conservative, who do have, like, what's considered the old-fashioned views that the man is the head of the house and the woman, like, is meant to be submissive, even people that have those views, most of them, they still don't think that that means that the woman should do everything she is told, even if, like, her husband was telling her to do something that she thought was immoral or dangerous, okay? And most men, like, those that have, like, the old-fashioned views, they wouldn't actually, most of them care about their wives and love their wives and wouldn't want her to do something that was upsetting to her, that was immoral, that was harmful to her or her baby. So even most people that have those, like, what's considered old-fashioned views would still be understanding in this situation and would understand why a pregnant woman wouldn't want to go and touch some chemicals that are supposed to be harmful to her babies, and would still understand that, like, just because they believe in these, like, old-fashioned views that, that the man is the head of the house, that still doesn't mean that he just gets to tell her to do, like, whatever he wants, like, regardless of whether it's something that's hurtful to her, okay? That is advocating for abuse, Pearl.
That whole fight, if she just said okay, that whole fight would have been avoided.
So if all women just do what their husbands tell them, fights would be avoided. Never mind people, women that are in relationships with controlling, abusive husbands, then, Pearl. They should just do, if they just submit as much as possible, then they can avoid the abuse, can't they? Women that get battered and beaten and end up in hospital and all that, if they just did what they were told, that wouldn't have happened, okay? Or in Hillary's case, like, you don't know whether that medication could have been harmful to the babies. And are you still sitting there saying, like, well, she should have just done what her husband told her? Like, then the whole fight would have been avoided.
And the fourth thing I noticed was she was using, again, the feminist terms. Your abuse is sick, Stephen. And he's like, I'm going to let that go. I just think...
Said, watch it, quite angrily. And Hillary is the one who said, I'm going to let that go.
I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get.
Really quite angrily, like he was offended by being accused as being an abuser. And once again, that is not a feminist word, Pearl, okay? I would say that, like, some men are in abusive relationships and some women are in abusive relationships. That's not a feminist term, okay? Like, if hypothetically, if a woman really is in an abusive relationship, is she not supposed to use the word abuse? Because if she does, you're going to just fob her off as being a feminist, even though, like, some women and some men are in abusive relationships.
We're kind of at a weird place in the conservative movement if we're calling like a fight between a couple abuse. Like, I just didn't see abuse in that.
Okay, I get that seeing one argument, you could say, like, well, that doesn't necessarily equal abuse, okay, but Hillary claimed that she was abused by Steve Crowder, and you automatically dismiss it like, oh, we shouldn't just believe women, but then why do you automatically believe men if they say they've been in a toxic or abusive relationship with women? Why do you automatically believe a man every time he says that? Because, like, the man could be lying for all you know, okay? But also, I'm wondering, like, if this video footage was, like, of the genders reversed, say, hypothetically, if Steve Crowder had, like, injured his back, okay, and he was in a lot of pain and he needed to sort of rest and recuperate, and Hillary was, like, nagging him to go out and mow the lawn or do some DIY or lift some heavy boxes or something like that, and he was saying, like, well, no, I'm in a lot of pain, I need to rest, and she started getting, like, really angry and started having a go at him and saying that he wasn't a good husband because he's not doing his, like, manly duties. Now, would you not say that that would be really unfair? Like, if he's, like, injured, she should have empathy for him. Like, she should be caring, and as the wife, she should be looking after him. Would you not say that? Okay, but for some reason, when we have a heavily pregnant woman and carrying twins, people in the manosphere kind of act as if, like, it's perfectly okay for Steve Crowder to be ordering her around, not being sympathetic, telling her to do loads of different jobs, and not letting her leave the house and have any independence. Like, when, like, shouldn't he be caring for his heavily pregnant wife? And, you know, like I said, it would take like 2 minutes for him to give the dog some medication. So, like, you know, if the genders were reversed, Pearl would not be saying, like, oh, this is just a fight. She would be saying that the woman was well out of order.
And I guess I have a different point of view on this from interviewing so many men that have been victims of divorce, really, that have been divorce raped.
See what I mean when I say that she would automatically believe a man? If a man comes to you and says, my wife divorced me for no good reason, I've been a brilliant good husband, she took me for everything that I have, okay, you automatically believe him. When you haven't heard the wife's point of view, she might say he was a terrible husband. She might say that he cheated on her. She might say that he was a drunk that beat her. You don't know. But you automatically believe men when they say they've been in a relationship with a toxic woman. But when a woman says she's been in a relationship with a toxic man, you just dismiss it. It's like, oh, that must be a load of rubbish. The woman must be lying. Well, we haven't heard the man's side of the story. It's like, why do you view everything through a lens of men are always good and women are always bad?
And what I've noticed is, like, a lot of women will put clips out of context to make a guy look bad. So when I see, like, clips or texts get leaked, I'm just a bit more skeptical because, you know, there's two sides to every story. And in this, you know, my question is, why were you sitting on a clip from like 2 years ago? And the other thing that made me a little skeptical was, like, them saying emotional abuse. I'm like, really?
Yes, abuse is not always just physical, okay? Men and women can be mentally or emotionally abused, okay? That is a real thing, okay? That actually annoys me a little bit, the way, like, the red pill community and all that sort of fob that off. It's like, oh, unless a guy is actually beating the absolute crap out of a woman, it's not abuse. It's like, some people, like, have become suicidal from, like, being in abusive relationships when it's not even been violent. It's just been mental. It's just been physical, okay? That can be men or women, okay? And that's really, like, heartless of people like Pearl and a lot of the red pillers to just dismiss it, to be honest. But even if you, don't take emotional abuse seriously and think it's only proper abuse if somebody is physically violent, well, I would say, how do you know that, like, emotional abuse isn't going to lead to physical violence? I mean, that Steve Crowder, when he got very angry, he threatened to blank Hillary up, okay, which sounds like a threat of violence to me, and I'm sure it's not the first time he's threatened her, or he might have even hit her for all we know, okay? Now, women die all the time as a result of, like, violence from a partner, but also one of the main causes of death, like, if a woman is pregnant, is through violence at the hands of a partner, okay? And that's, like, even more common, like, for a woman to die, you know, as a result of violence from an intimate partner than from, like, other, like, medical issues or complications while she's pregnant, okay? And it's so funny how people like Pearl and, you know, guys like those on the whatever podcast, they are so against abortion, they consider abortion to be murder, yet they all say that, like, that Hillary was making too much of a fuss and that she should have stayed with that Stephen Crowder, when, for all they know, they don't know whether, like, you know, a pregnant woman staying in a relationship with an abuser, not only is she in danger, but, like, the baby could be in danger as well. The baby is, because she's expecting twins, could be in danger as well. And it's funny how they don't care about it in that scenario. It's almost as if they're, like, more about just sort of trying to control women and tell women what they're supposed to do than actually, like, really caring about the well-being of a baby. And also, like, it wouldn't be healthy, like, for children to be raised with an abusive partner, whether that's the man or the woman, okay? It would be unhealthy for them. So not only do they not care about a woman in that situation, they don't really care about the children either.
And the third thing, again, I just kept thinking, I was like, if she just listened to him and didn't take the car and just got the Uber, it would have been fine. And that's why a lot of times I really put the arguments on the woman because, you know, again, when we get married, we're supposed to submit to our husbands. And what does that mean? That means to obey. When your boss tells you something, you don't go back and forth arguing with him. And if you do, that's usually the employee's fault.
Well, actually, if your boss was telling you to do something that's immoral or dangerous, yeah, people would argue. Like, if an employee was pregnant and the boss wanted them to use like some chemical that was harmful to pregnant women or harmful to the baby, and the woman said like, no, I'm not going to use that because it's dangerous. Okay, it specifically says not to be used by pregnant women. If the boss then said like, well, I'm going to sack you if you don't do that, well then like the employee could like sue for unfair dismissal, or you know, everybody knows like if an employee is pregnant, you don't get her to do lots of heavy lifting. Okay, you know, there are certain things that you can't make employees do. All right, it's like, yeah, the boss is there to tell you what to do, but if it's something that's dangerous, immoral, or you know, bosses still have certain rules. Okay, not everybody agrees with your pill that a woman's husband is their boss. Okay, but even if you're going to go down that road, that still doesn't mean that he just has a right to make a woman do whatever he wants her to do, regardless of whether it's dangerous, immoral, whether it upsets her, whether it psychologically damages her. Okay, she's still a person. I know that's a little bit hard for you and the red pill community to get your heads around.
You know, so if she just listened, that whole thing would have been avoided. But the problem is we've had 100 years of propaganda, and most women that are married today have never been told that their role is to obey their husband.
I think if you went onto the streets, Pearl, and asked most men if they want a woman to be really submissive and just obey them, whatever they say, most men wouldn't actually want that. I think most men like a woman with a personality, like a woman with a bit of backbone. Okay, yeah, I get that men don't want some dominating, like, bossy woman that's going to, like, emasculate them and all that, but then likewise women don't want some dominating, bossy, abusive guy either, okay? But I don't think most men want a doormat, okay? I don't think most men are like, oh yeah, I want a woman who's okay with me cheating on her. I want a woman who'll just obey everything I say, who'll just put up with me, telling her what to do. Okay, most men don't want that. Okay, I understand that you've spent a lot of time listening to the radical misogynists of the red pill community, but that's not normal men. That's like insecure little boys that like are frightened of women and don't want to believe that women can be successful or that women can be clever or women can have their own mind and want women put in their place. Okay, but that's not the normal average guy on the street. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about this video for now. Thank you for listening.